Hey, what's going on, everybody? Welcome back to the PapaJugg Podcast. Tonight, we've got a few different things that we want to cover. There have been some changes in the world of gaming. There have been some changes in the world of streaming. The streaming thing wasn't even on the agenda. But there's also something, and I'm wondering if you've ever heard about a game called Palworld? I had some thoughts about that.
Party people, how you feeling?
What's going on? It's good to see everybody, or hopefully you're hearing it because I probably can't see you because you're listening on Spotify or something. But anyways, welcome in. We are back at the PapaJugg Podcast. It is, as of recording, it is Friday night. We've got some things that we've got to talk about. And as I just mentioned, there was a big update in the world of streaming. If you are a Twitch streamer. This is not on tonight's agenda, but I just wanted to go over it very, very briefly for those of you who are curious. If you are a Twitch streamer and you have a decent sized audience, you've grown a little bit beyond that initial affiliate requirement of 3 average viewers and 50 followers and all of that. There is a change now. So ever since they got rid of the partner, what I call the partner pay cut, the partner pay metrics. Basically everybody, no matter what level you are at Twitch, you get paid 50-50. 50% of the subs and all that stuff, all your revenue goes to Twitch, 50% goes to you. As I've said before on this show many times, it's never actually 50%. You typically, especially if you're in the US, you typically get around 45%-ish, give or take a few percentages. That's changing. So at the very end of last quarter, I believe, in the last quarter of 2023, Twitch unveiled their Partner Plus program. And that was where certain partners, if you met a requirement, you had to get a certain number of sub points and all of whatever. It's weird. But you had to do a certain thing, and then you could go back to your 70-30 pay cut, which is great. I mean, that's fantastic. Good for Twitch. They found a way to make it slightly better for those who qualified. It wasn't for all partners. You had to be a partner who actually was, in my opinion, you had to be pretty active. You had to be very engaged with your audience, because to get 350 sub points, that's a lot of subs. Gifted subs don't count. So you've got to get 300-ish, 350, ish people to sub to you. And that's a big deal. And that's, worth recognizing. And I say good for them if they did it. But, people are still, hey, Twitch, how do we get paid again? Because this isn't really the business anymore. What's up? So Twitch came out with this thing, and they announced it a couple of days ago, what they're calling the Plus program. They got rid of the word partner. The reason is they are lowering most of the requirements. They are creating a new lower tier for partners and affiliates to get extra pay. If you meet a 100 sub point requirement, you can now get 60-40 split. That's great. That's awesome. But again, that does mean that's somewhere between 90 and 100 people, because tier 2 subs give you 2 points, tier 3 subs give you 6 points. It's a whole thing. But basically, you can get now 60-40 pay split. And it does mean like 100 people got a sub though. So like there's a whole thing to that. But anyways, so that was a big change. And again, now they've opened that tier to affiliates, because pretty much if you're getting 300 subs, you're probably a partner, so they've opened that up. So now it's called the Plus program. The qualifying period of 3 months starts on February 1st, and the pay will kick in May 1st. So there's a process to this, but you can do it. And now they've got a new program that is for partners and affiliates. So it's just called Plus program. So not crazy. It's pretty cool. So anyways, but that is not the main topic that we were talking about tonight. That's not even on the agenda for tonight. We wanted to go over some unfortunate, again, seems to be a theme, some unfortunate changes in the world of gaming, and then we are going to make tonight's big chat all about Palworld. What is it? What does it mean for gaming? What does it mean for gaming audiences? And I'm going to share with you a comment that a friend of mine made. And ironically, the the friend of mine that made the comment is streaming Palworld on Twitch right now. So he won't even hear me talk about him, but that's fine. Yeah, right. Palworld. What's that? So we're going to be talking about that. We're going to be talking about Apple. There's a change in the ecosystem, the jail that is Apple's environment. We're going to be talking about Xbox Game Studios, and we're going to be talking about Riot Games. So I hope everybody had or is about to have a very great week. I want to thank you for coming back. And please let me know if you haven't done it already, drop a sub on YouTube or follow on Spotify or on iTunes or iHeart or wherever you're listening. I would appreciate that support. We are looking to grow our community, and I am still on the path because it hasn't been that long, but I am still on the path for Twitch partner and YouTube partner. So any way you could support that is greatly appreciated by me. Thank you so much for doing so. Tonight, I do want to take a quick moment to thank our Diamond Discord subs as well as our Tier 3 Twitch subs. Thank you very much to Captain Havoc. Thank you very much to I'm Caffeine Fiend. Thank you very much, Hayden. Thank you very much, Reese 2175. Thank you very much, I Am the Ancient. I appreciate your support. Thank you so much for what you do for this community. Let's get on to topic number 1, which is Riot Games. Sadly, Riot fired a whole bunch of people. Pretty rough. Hate to see this, but it was interesting sort of what the fallout for this was. So I want to get the number again because where did it go? There it goes. Riot is eliminating 530 staff. So basically, give or take a handful of people, the same number of people that Twitch just laid off. Twitch made huge news when they did this. Like, it was on NBC and CNN and Fox, and like everybody was like, oh my God, Twitch laid off 500 people. Riot Games does it, and it's like Kotaku picked it up. You know what I mean? Like, everybody's like, oh, game studio that nobody cares about. Like, but Riot is huge. Riot is not a small studio, and they just laid off 530 people. It struck me as odd that Twitch laid off the same number of people, and it was international news. Riot does it, and like 3 places picked it up. You know, basically it never left the gaming industry. Like, you are not seeing this layoff on CNN, but you saw Twitch's. That struck me as odd. Okay. Now the other interesting part of this, why are we talking about this? We're talking about this because slightly Twitch. For those who didn't know, Riot Games was working on a giant possible, not really possible, but an idea. They were working on an idea called the Riot Entertainment Network. I think that's what it's called. Riot Esports Network. I don't, why they wanted to focus on esports outside of League of Legends, I get that, but like, streaming has to be bigger than that. So this was never going to work. Anyways, Riot was creating the Riot Esports Network, and their idea was to create a live streaming space for esports. From day one, there should have been huge warning signs. The first of which is that esports isn't big enough to need or grow its own streaming platform. The amount of money, and for anybody who has learned from Twitch, YouTube, Facebook, Mixer, like any of these places, if you've learned anything, you should know live streaming is expensive. The back-end necessary hardware requires a buttload of money. And Riot's like, yeah, let's spend time there. No, just stop it. You have to have billions to do this. Kick, which came about, I believe. No, I guarantee it. Kick came about after Riot's Esports Network. Dumb idea. Anyways, Kick, it's funded by a billionaire. And he's a billionaire. Like, that's what it takes to make these things work. You've got to get so much money because it is. Anyways, so that's not happening. So not only is Riot getting rid of 530 people, but Riot has also canceled, not suspended, not put on pause. Riot has canceled the esports network plan. They are no longer developing that. And I think that it was very interesting with Twitch's announcement just recently in the last couple of months. that they are pulling out of South Korea. I think that's interesting because esports are huge in Asia, Korea especially, but huge in Asia. So if Twitch, aka Amazon, is looking at Korea going, damn, that's an expensive place to do business. Let's just leave. Like, we can't figure that. Let's just go. How was Riot going to make that work? Kind of like its hotbed of core audience would have cost them a fucking fortune, right? Like, okay. Anyways. So there's that problem. So I thought that was sort of an interesting thing. As was just said in chat, wow, more layoffs. Shocker. Yeah. The layoffs are sadly not surprising at this point. The layoffs are not even uncommon. Just, it is what it is. But Riot, as part of these layoffs, as part of their cost-saving measures, Riot is eliminating the esports network. Those plans are now dead. So, one possible competitor to Twitch, gone. Kick, still, I'm going to say struggling, but not, as far as I know, they're not financially struggling. When I say struggling, I mean they're struggling to find, I think, an efficient path forward. Because as I said a couple of episodes ago, my impression of Kick is still that the only people that are really there, the big names, like, you know, if you're a smaller streamer, and I don't like that phrase, but if you're not $1 million partner, okay, well, I'll put it that way. If you're not $1 million partner, then you're less exposed to this. But basically, I think all the big streamers that are there are either people on an apology tour or people who need to be on an apology tour. You can't just be rebels and be like, yeah, that's our identity. Because at some point, if you're number one, what are you rebelling against? It's kind of like politicians who lie to you and say that they're going there to, you know, clean out all the corruption, and we're going to remove the entrenched people of politics. And then they become the entrenched people of politics. And the question is, okay, now do we get rid of you? Like, you can't be a rebel forever. At some point, you have to move from rebellion to government. I don't think Kick has figured that out or how to do it. I'm sure Eddie understands that has to be a transition at some point. I don't think there's a way to do it. That's their problem, is their brand is built on copying, anger, and just, you know, like, we're better. It's like, okay, well, what happens if you're not? Like, now what? Anyways, so that's what's going on with Riot Games. Let's move on to the other story that I thought was interesting when it came to the world of layoffs. Sad. Xbox Game Studios. You might have heard of them recently. They just picked up a company called Activision. Little something. Little brand. Little thing. Only cost them $69 billion. Which is another sad fact. So they spend $69 billion to acquire Activision Blizzard. Okay. A month later, they declare that they don't have enough money to pay for 1,900 people anymore. And it's just, you know, you had $69 billion to buy the studios. You couldn't keep these people employed for a year. You couldn't find, you had $69 billion to buy this studio and you couldn't keep everybody employed for a year. Like, who's it going to hurt? Are you that? If you didn't catch the news, by the way, let me give you a news flash about Microsoft. For a brief period this week, they were the most valuable corporation on the planet. They were worth $3 billion. No, trillion. I think they're cap trillion. Yeah, let's go with trillion. A billion doesn't, they had billions. Trillion. They were more valuable than Apple. But they couldn't afford these 1,900 people. Nope, gotta go. How do you make those announcements within a breath of each other? How do you tell the world we are the biggest corporation, but we can't afford 1,900 employees? Thank you very much. Goodbye. Sure, you could. You just don't want to. Like, you just don't want to. This is just pure greed at this point. There's no other way to slice it. And I don't care. I genuinely don't. And as I say this as somebody who owns a company, I say this as somebody who employs people. I don't care that it's all about the bottom line. I don't care how redundant these people might have been. You bring in this huge corporation called Activision Blizzard, there's going to be some overlap. I get that. There's going to be some overlap between the Activision folks and the people you've already got in-house at Xbox Game Studio. I get that. Who cares? Give them a job. You just upended their lives. You just gave them new bosses. You just gave them whole new structures and game priorities and all this other shit. And then you're like, oh, by the way, not all of you are staying. But we're worth $3 quadrillion. I'm just going to make it quadrillion. Was it trillion? Why am I questioning this number? Microsoft is worth how much? Question mark. 3 trillion. I was right. Their market cap was $3 trillion. So let's put that into perspective. Let's do some math. Hold on. So let's say, and this is not the case, but I'm going to round everybody's salary up. Whoever got fired, I'm rounding their salary up, okay? So if we take 1,900 people times $100,000 a year, okay? $100,000 a year. That's $190 million. You weren't going to make that on a new game. You weren't going to make that on, eliminating. Oh, no, that's right. You're not going to eliminate AI. You're going to prioritize AI. And that's the point. That's what we all need to be watching out for. And let me tell you something. When I talk about AI, I want everybody to understand. I'm being completely upfront with you, and I am being transparent about my positions on AI. AI is not something that should go away. AI is not something that should be held back out of fear. AI is going to do, and already has done in some cases, amazing things. It creates the opportunity for us to learn faster than the human brain. And as talented as our brain is, as amazingly capable as our brain is, it's amazingly capable when compared to all the other life forms on Earth. It is not amazingly capable when compared to what learning can be. So I support the responsible development of AI. Yes, people are going to lose their jobs. And let me be real honest about this. That could include me. Part of my genius, part of my corporate background, part of my career experience is my ability to create things that didn't exist before. I can come up with really entertaining ideas to present a product or to educate a team of employees, or to the many things that I do in my job and my company does and my employees do. We do that because we have the unique ability to do it. AI could very well replace us. Am I going to be happy about it? No. But that doesn't mean it's a bad thing for society. Okay? What we're seeing right now is the prioritization of AI. AI is getting ridiculous amounts of cash. Companies are investing billions upon billions of dollars in the latest thinking, the latest hardware, quantum computing. Okay? These two things coming up side by side, quantum computing and AI, is neither a coincidence or a problem. Those two technologies are going to drastically change humanity. They are going to unlock doors we haven't seen since the advent of the computer. But that's why so many jobs are being lost. It's not purely greed. Greed is certainly part of it. Microsoft absolutely could pay these people. Microsoft absolutely could keep these jobs. But they've got to make room for AI, and that's what they're doing. And I think, again, that sucks for the people that are losing their jobs. I would say that if I lost mine, it sucks for me too. I'm right there in the same boat. I'm not saying I'm better or worse. I'm saying I would be right there with you. But that's where AI is leading, is that we're not all going to be needed doing the same skills. because AI can do things that groups of humans can't do. You can get one computer running an AI, proper AI programs, and it can replace an entire team of people. It's a fact. And that's why we're going to keep seeing these layoffs. It's not because the people aren't important. It's because the skills are being supplemented or supplanted. And that's the interesting thing. So we're going to continue. And that's why I keep talking about it on this podcast, is because it's not just companies that grew too big. It's not just companies looking for efficiency. The efficiency, again, is code word for not budget efficiency. The efficiency is result efficiency. It's program efficiency. It's process efficiency. AI is going to replace humans. Not all of us, but some, a lot. So again, that's why I think these are interesting, is when we see something like Xbox Game Studios eliminating 1,900 positions right after spending $69 billion to get some of those positions, and also the intellectual property behind them. I get all that. I think we're still seeing the effects of AI, and we're seeing it with Facebook. We're seeing it with Alphabet, aka Google. We're seeing it at Amazon. We're seeing it at all the gaming studios. You can get AI programs to render things faster. So it's going to be a very difficult evolution to watch over the next, I would say, decade is going to be the hardest. After that, it's just going to be refining where AI goes. But I talk to my son about stuff like this, and it's like, A, not going away. B, good career path. Figure out how this stuff works. Learn AI programming. Learn maintenance. They're going to need maintenance. You got to maintain the damn things. It's a machine like anything else. Learn these things. There is job security in that. People can get retrained into those careers. I mean, hate to say it, but it's kind of like being a coal miner. There's not a huge career in that anymore, but if you learn how to maintain solar panels or build solar panels, you got yourself a pretty healthy job. It's going to last for a little while. It's something you can hand down. It's a skill you can pass on to the next generation, because the sun's not going anywhere. Our need for the sun is not going anywhere. Our need for coal is going somewhere, and it's away. So it's just, you think about these things in the big picture, the big macro picture, and it just kind of takes you into new places where jobs and offices are going to look different. There's going to be, Al the AI in the cubicle next to you. You still need to keep your job, but it's going to be helped by Al over there. You know what I mean? Oh, it's going to be tough to watch. Let's go to our third topic of the night, which is Apple. Speaking of big tech companies, Apple. Apple lost a court case. And Apple loses a lot of court cases. That's not really the issue. Apple is under new rules in the European Union. The European Union came out with these new open environment, not trees and flowers environment, but marketplaces. Marketplaces had to be open. Well, Apple is notorious for not having open marketplaces. Apple is what I call the jail. If you are in the Apple environment, you are contained in that Apple environment. You can't get apps from outside the App Store, everything. Like, you are locked in. Like iMessage is the greatest example. When iMessage tries to talk to any Android or Linux or Windows-based messaging platform, it's just like, we're a different color. Ha ha. There is a snobbery around Apple. Most of their phones are not industry leading, and yet they have the highest prices for phones. Like there's a snobbery around the world of Apple. Well, the EU changed that. The EU said if you want to function in our marketplace of 500 million people, you need to have an open marketplace. So I want to give you some details on this, because this is eventually, I think this is going to come to the US one way or the other. And what I mean by that is, I think that either Apple is going to say it's too difficult to run different environments. So we have to have one marketplace in the EU. We have to have another marketplace in the US. It's getting too cumbersome. The privacy laws are a pain in the ass. And now the app availability is a pain in the ass. The payment processing is a pain in the ass. Apple may unify the whole process. Maybe. That's one way it could come. The other way it could come is that the U.S. government starts to require the same thing. Somebody in Congress decides, you know what, we should have this too. I don't think that's as likely. We are much less enthusiastic about telling corporations what to do. We do it. I mean, we certainly, I'm not saying that, we're laissez-faire, everybody does what they feel like. But when it comes to stuff like this, Congress is so not technologically savvy that they have no idea what they're talking about. So I don't know why they would even think about it, but let's talk about it. So the new cost of doing business. This is what it is. I'm reading from The Verge. iPhone users in the EU will be able to download apps from third-party app stores as a result of the new Digital Markets Act, which happens in March. Apple announced how it plans to change the rules for developers releasing iOS software in the European Union in response to the Digital Markets Act. The big news is that third-party app stores will be allowed on iOS for the first time, breaking the Apple App Store's position as the sole distributor of iPhone apps. The changes will arrive with iOS 17.4 in March. Okay, so now you will be able to get authentic, real approved Apple apps off of iPhone, off of the iStore. Off of the App Store. I know how to speak English. I'm really good at this. So it's going to be called the Alternative App Marketplaces, and this is how it'll work. You will be able to download any marketplace. You can download a marketplace from the website. So some third party, you go to their website, you download their marketplace onto your phone. Not allowed before, will be allowed as of March. In order to be used on an iPhone, those marketplaces have to go through Apple's approval process, and once you download one, you have to explicitly give it permission to download apps to your device. But once the marketplace is approved and on your device, you can download anything you want, including apps that violate App Store guidelines. That's a big change. If you've got an iPhone, you couldn't get anything on your phone that Apple didn't approve. Now you can. It's 100% a thing. I mean, you could root your phone, but whatever, don't do that. You can even set a non-App Store marketplace as the default on your device. This truly is the EU's way of saying you have to allow your customers to control their products. They aren't yours anymore. The customer bought the phone, therefore they can do with it what they want. That was the point. Okay? Developers, meanwhile, now this is a change for developers because now there's different ways to get onto iPhones. Developers can choose whether to use Apple's payment services and in-app purchases or integrate a third-party system for payments without paying an additional fee to Apple. If the developer wants to stick with Apple's existing in-app payment system, there's an additional 3% processing fee. So again, Apple makes it hard to do business with them. Apple still plans to keep a close eye on the app distribution process. All apps must be notarized by Apple, and distributed through third-party marketplaces is still managed by Apple systems. Developers will only be allowed to distribute a single version of their app across different app stores, and they'll still have to abide by some basic platform requirements like getting scanned for malware. That's nice. You still got to pass the security check, but you don't have to do it through the App Store now. Developers could pay no commission to Apple at all in the EU, depending on how they choose to distribute their apps. Apple is making changes to how its fee structures work, both in the App Store and for the newly distributed marketplaces outside of it. Developers can either choose to use the new business terms or stick with the existing model and continue to distribute through the App Store as normal. But under the new terms, apps distributed through the App Store that choose to use an alternative payment system will pay a 17% commission. Pay attention, developers. You will pay a 17% commission rather than 30%. Cool. The commission rate falls to 10% for any app that currently qualifies for Apple's reduced small business rate. So if you're really tiny. Also, so the company is introducing a new type of fee for particularly popular apps, what they call the core technology fee, which sounds so much like what Unity did. The core technology fee will charge developers 50 euro pennies, or I forget what they call it. It's not euro, 50 euro pence, euro pennies, euro cents. Maybe it's euro cents. I forget. Whatever. I haven't looked. You will pay 50 euro pennies, whatever, per annual app install, but the fee only kicks in after 1 million downloads. So until you hit that million download mark, you don't have to pay this 50-cent fee. It's roughly 54 US cents, but whatever. So big changes coming to Apple's product, to the Apple App Store in the EU. Something like this, I think, will eventually make its way to the US, but that's a ways off. Just saying. Okay, so let's move on to our big chat of the night. I don't know if anybody's ever heard of this thing. It's basically an indie title, kind of a rip-off, So I don't know how many people have heard of a game called Palworld. It's a thing. Palworld has taken gaming by storm. Now, the funny thing is, I told you at the beginning of the episode that a buddy of mine made a comment about Palworld, and they're not going to be here to hear me talk about them because they're currently streaming Palworld. Palworld is interesting. Nope. Is that a buddy? Yes, it is a new buddy system. Absolutely true. Palworld is what I've been calling, and as you can see by the title of tonight's episode, I call it PokeArkNiteRustZelda. Because it's basically a ripoff of all of those things. A little bit of Valheim too. There's some of the Valheim vibes, but I kind of throw that in with Ark. It's crafting, it's survival, it's all those things. So the developer is Pocket Pair. Okay, that's the studio that built it. It is called Palworld. It is visibly, audibly, and game loop. Every aspect is a ripoff of something else. I haven't played it. I don't own Palworld. I must disclose that right here. I don't own it. I haven't played it, but I've seen a lot of you play it. I've seen you people play it. There's nothing unique about it. I can't find anything unique. What was interesting was when I was talking to some friends, a buddy of mine says, it scratched a certain itch. And I thought, what? Like what? Everything in this is a ripoff. What is the itch that it scratched? Like you could play any of the 5 games I just mentioned and basically play some part of Palworld. And the answer was basically this. And I'm curious what you guys think about this. I want you to leave a comment with what you think of Palworld. The response I got was this. Palworld is what Pokemon should have been for the last 5 to 10 years. Palworld is, and I mean, I think we've all seen the headlines. It's basically Pokemon with guns, because there's weapons and you're really like killing stuff, whatever. So the basic vibe was it's what Pokemon should have been. And the fact that it brings all of these different worlds together, the survival, the crafting, the catching, all these different things, the base, all of this, bringing all of that together is what has made this such a popular game. People have loved having these different types of games, these different styles of games come together. In my PokeArkNiteRustZelda name, Zelda's at the end of it. I was literally watching a buddy of mine play this, and I think it was when he spawned in. I think it was when he was in the menus, and I think I heard it when he spawned in. To me, it sounded like an audio clip directly from Breath of the Wild. To me, it sounded like it was a literal copy and paste of an audio file from Breath of the Wild. And I even asked him, I was like, hey, is that the same sound from Breath of the Wild? And he said, no, it's an octave higher. He was joking. Like, we don't know if it's exact, but it was basically like, yeah, it's close, But that's part of it. and I think that's the other part of it, is the first part is a lot of people have been dissatisfied with Nintendo's work on Pokemon, and it hasn't done much for years. All the recent releases have been sort of disappointing. I mean, some people have loved them, sure, but for the most part, the community is kind of like, meh, not great. And let's not lose sight of the fact that Pokemon is the number one gaming media franchise in history. It has made more money than any other intellectual property in gaming has ever made, by far. Like, it crushes things. Pokemon's huge because it's unique. That's my perspective. From a business perspective, from a creative perspective, Pokemon is a unique idea and a unique execution of that idea. What it's done for years is a different story, but that's what made it as big as it is. The lore behind it, the growth behind it, the evolution of all of these different things. I said evolution with Pokemon. I'm funny. Palworld has to keep copying somebody. Palworld has to either be stuck as it is, or it has to keep copying somebody else. I don't know what else it's going to do to funnel year after year after year growth. They could do like Pokemon does and just keep adding new pals. But again, Pokemon does that. So what is Palworld going to, is Palworld the kick of gaming? Is it just a response? Is it just a reaction? Is it just a tag along? Is it just second place or third place? Now, let's go over some of Palworld's success. First of all, in like a week's time, it has sold over 8 million copies. The money being made is no joke. Okay? 8 million copies, and I think it's $30 a pop? Not bad. 210 million right out, 240 million. I know how to do math. 240 million right out of the gate. Okay? Not terrible. It is now, it has achieved, I want to get this right. It has achieved the second highest level of concurrent players on Steam ever, at over 2 million concurrent players. More than 2 million people logged in to play the game at the same time. That's kind of crazy. That's beat Dota 2, that's beat Call of Duty, that's beaten all of it. It's beaten all of it. The only game that Palworld hasn't beaten, and it won't, okay, was way back in 2018. Does anybody know what it is? I want you to think. Way back in 2018, what was the game that set the record for most concurrent players on Steam? In May of 2018, it was PUBG. 3.2 million concurrent players at one time. No, not Star Citizen. I'm sorry. Chat said Star Citizen. I'm laughing. That was funny. Okay. So anyways, PUBG is still holding that record 6 years later. Okay. So I don't think Palworld is going to beat that. I think it is absolutely earned a number 2 spot. And I'm not saying that Palworld isn't fun. I'm not saying that Palworld isn't, I was going to say deserving of its success, but I'm not sure that that's right. It may not deserve its success if all it's doing is copying. It certainly achieved it. Let's put it that way. Palworld has certainly achieved its success. Don't know if it's deserved it. Now, the interesting thing is Palworld was originally, if I'm remembering the timeline correctly, Palworld was originally debuted in like the end of 2022, I think it was. 2023, there was a trailer drop. Like, people have seen Palworld, okay? People have known it wasn't like what's this game? There's a new game on Steam. No. It's a thing. Like, people knew it was coming out. As far as we know, there were no public statements from any of the games that are being copied, especially Pokemon and Nintendo. They haven't said a word. Now, things are different. And I'm going to explain. So, okay. Let's go. I want to go over some details. There was a great headline in USA Today. Palworld popularity explodes amid controversy. Pokemon launches copyright investigation. The game is released in early access on January 19th. So as of today, we were recording this on Friday night, 7:30 p.m. Pacific. As of today, it is a week old. Okay. It has sold more than 8 million copies in a week. It has garnered the two blah, blah, blah. We already know that. It has made it into the top 10 most watched games of the month on Twitch. Not bad. Pretty good. So, question, is Palworld based on Pokemon? The Pokemon company announced, which, by the way, for those who don't know, yes, Nintendo, Pokemon, yes. But the Pokemon company is the company that is responsible for overseeing all Pokemon assets, all intellectual property, all developed products. That's their thing. That's their vibe, okay? So the Pokemon company is technically responsible for this stuff. The Pokemon company announced it is launching an investigation into the game to determine whether it infringes on intellectual property. Now, I'm going to, because their statement was interesting. Here it is. We have received, this was originally announced on their Japanese website and it's translated into English. We have received many inquiries regarding another company's game released in January 2024. I wonder what they're talking about. We have not granted any permission for the use of Pokemon intellectual property or assets in that game. We intend to investigate and take appropriate measures to address any acts that infringe on intellectual property rights related to the Pokemon. We will continue to cherish and nurture each and every Pokemon in its world and work to bring the world together through Pokemon in the future. That was their statement. Because up until that statement, which I think was 2 days ago, maybe yesterday. Do I have a date on this thing? It was the 25th. So it was yesterday. Yesterday in Japan. So it might have been technically the 24th, my time zone, but who knows? Anyways, up until then, for roughly 5 to 6 days, nobody heard anything from Pokemon. It was quiet. Everybody's like, wow, maybe they don't care. I think I even might have said that last week. We're like, guys, we haven't heard anything from these companies. So if they wanted to, they could have objected and they haven't. Well, turns out right after I spoke, apparently Pokemon got upset. So they are looking into it. Now, what they do say, I think is interesting. It's kind of what they don't say that might be even more interesting. We are blah, blah, blah. Where'd it go? We intend to investigate and take appropriate measures to address any acts that infringe on intellectual property rights related to the Pokemon. They intend to investigate. So they're not filing a claim. So that could mean, not saying it does, what that could mean is that they are only taking a look at this now. They may not have done any research into this. That would surprise me. So again, what the statement doesn't say might be as interesting or more interesting than what it does. We intend to investigate and take appropriate measures to address any acts that infringe on intellectual property rights related to the Pokemon. So they intend to investigate. No litigation has been filed. No cease and desist letters have been sent. There's a lot to look at. What I think is also interesting is Nintendo going to do the same thing with Zelda? Because like I said, if you've looked at Palworld, you will see some resemblance to Breath of the Wild. You will see some Zelda property stuff of the last few years in this game. The audio, the visuals, like there's facets of Nintendo in this, okay? But it's not the whole game. Just parts of it. They only stole parts. Allegedly, maybe, who knows? We don't know. For legal reasons, I didn't say that. There's that. Are all of these studios going to be looking at this game going, did you imitate us or did you copy us? The interesting thing is that all of the ones is Epic going to look at this as a Fortnite copy? I don't think so, because I don't think, I think the style of the gameplay is a little Fortnite-ish. I don't think that the characters or the weapons or any of that is duplicated enough. I'm not a lawyer. I just play one on a podcast. I don't think it's duplicated enough, so I don't see Epic having much to do, but Epic could say, we intend to investigate. They could say the same thing that Pokemon has. That's fine. Any of these companies, okay? Any of these companies could bury Pocket Pair. It could become so cost prohibitive just in litigation that Pocket Pair might have to pull the game. Like, look, we can't fight the Pokemon company when it comes to lawyers. We have lawyers, but they have lawyers. Like, they've got fucking armies of lawyers. We've got 2 guys in our basement that are reading too many papers. Pocket Pair would absolutely get crushed in litigation. Nintendo, Pokemon company, studio, whatever. Who makes Arc? The studio people. Shit. Whatever. Who cares? All of these companies, if the litigation is what moved forward, the litigation is what would kill both Palworld and potentially Pocket Pair. Now, if the companies decided that, hey, yes, you are infringing on our intellectual property and we're going to crush you with an army of attorneys, Pocket Pair could simply say, okay, we're going to pull the game. And then that could be the end of the story. That may be the end of any potential litigation because that's what the companies want. That's what the other studios want. They want the competitor eliminated. Great. You've pulled Palworld. You've learned your lesson. You're not going to try and screw with us again. We're done. Okay. Because they don't want to pay the legal fees either. Like, they're not going to pay legal fees just to pay legal fees. That's boring. It's also expensive. You think Microsoft had to lay off 1,900 people? Wait until you got to start paying attorney costs. So that's a thing. I'll go back to my buddy's statement. Palworld scratches an itch. And like I said, as I understood it, there are 2 of them. The first is that this is what Pokemon should be. The other is that it combines all these different elements from games that people love into one place. And I think that's important. I think that's a lesson that both audiences and studios can learn from. Without copying intellectual property, without changing the word Pokemon to Pal, which isn't even really a good, replacement. Can we see more of these games that say, you know what, people love that gameplay from Title X, and they love that style from Game Y? Can we put these together and come up with new ideas? Can we simply be inspired by these things and create a new intellectual property that isn't so blatantly similar? For legal reasons, I chose the word similar. So I don't want to get sued. Could that be something that we see more from studios? I think so. And I think that the audience could respond, maybe not to this ridiculous degree. I mean, and I don't say ridiculous negatively, but just the success of Palworld has been goofy. It came out of nowhere and everybody's like, oh my God, it's my favorite game. Like, fellow streamer comes to me and they were talking about streaming categories and we got on the topic of Star Citizen. I was like, no, I've noticed Star Citizen took a hit. And they were like, yeah, me too. Like half the people I follow who normally stream Star Citizen were all streaming Palworld. Like partners were streaming Palworld. People with 1 viewer were playing Palworld. And I'm like, everybody's playing Palworld right now. Not me. I've held the line. So, I think there are new opportunities for people with these lessons. Like, let's learn from that. But what are the lessons that we're learning? A, potentially don't steal other people's ideas. B, find inspiration from different places, unify them, but under a new creative effort. Put some new intellectual ideas out into the ether with combined elements. I'm not saying every game has to innovate some new sort of gameplay, but at least pick up, find inspiration and then create from there. Bring something anew to the realm of gaming. That could be the lesson learned. People like this. People liked seeing all these different things that you could put into one title. So do it somewhere else. Do it a better way. Okay, if Palworld broke that mold, if Palworld showed that itch that needed to be scratched, just do it in a better way. Build a better mousetrap. I want to go back to no, that's it. Where did it go? No, that's not what I'm talking about. No, that's not what I'm talking about. Where did it go? No. Crap, where did it go? Sorry, I had another note that I wanted to share with you guys, and now it has refreshed the page, and I don't know where the hell it went because I highlighted it. Oh, that was it. Okay. Reports have started to surface that have indicated that some legal action has been taken against third-party modders who have tweaked the game to include actual Pokemon creatures, as opposed to the creatures that are already in the game. So there have been, and this has been confirmed, people that are modding the game to get actual Pokemon, like, you want your Piplup in there, you want your Eevee in there, you want your whatever. Those things are being modded into the game, and they are being litigated. That is being brought down. Those are being enforced at whatever you want to call it. So yeah. It's going to be an interesting thing, but I did think that was interesting that they are Pokemon is enforcing the use of the Pokemon characters if it's the actual Pokemon character. If it's not the actual character, if it's the who am I reading? Ars Technica. Ars Technica said many of which I would charitably call incredibly faithful homages. I would go with that. Yeah. Incredibly faithful homages. 100%. They look so Pokemon-like. So Pokemon is saying we have to investigate those because it's not Charizard. It's not Pikachu, but they look a shit ton like it. So we have to investigate, is it like it enough? Because if so, we're going to smack it. If they're not, there's nothing they can do. Not a lot they can do. There's some, but not a lot. So anyways, if you are modding actual Pokemon into Palworld, you're going to get hit. If you just build Palworld with things that look like Pokemon but aren't Pokemon, you just get investigated so far. We'll see what happens. So anyways, like I said, I would love to know what you guys think of Palworld. Pros, cons, whatever it is, whatever your impression of Palworld is, I would love to see that in the comments below. Please do that. Regardless of whatever platform you're on, if you're able to comment, drop a comment. Otherwise, that is the end of tonight's show. So I will see you next week for episode 30 of the PapaJugg Podcast. We're going to be back next Friday. And don't forget, please like whatever you do on the platform you're listening on or watching on, like, subscribe, comment, follow, vote up, whatever. There's 1,000 things you could do. Anything would be appreciated. But in the meantime, go have yourself a good morning, a good day, a good night, whatever it is for you. And I will see you on Monday on Twitch. See ya.